Hello artists, and welcome back to Art with Mrs. Kellogg. Well, this week you are going to tap into your imagination because we are going to create some fun and unique creatures. And after you create your creature or creatures, I encourage you to be a true animator. Remember, animators create characters and write stories about them. Write a fun story about your creature or creatures. Remember, you're never too young to be an author and illustrator. Now, meet me over at my workspace because I want to tell you a little bit more about the art lesson and the art supplies you will need. This is an example of the creature art project we are going to create today. And what I love about this project is that you are going to get to use your amazing imagination and the elements of art in our project today. Now let me tell you the art supplies you will need for today's project. You're going to need paper, and the size is up to you. If you would like to use watercolor, make sure that the paper is thick enough to apply watercolor to. You're going to need a pencil with an eraser. It is optional, but I'm going to be using a black fine tip Sharpie marker. If you don't have that and you'd like to outline your shapes in black, you could also use a black colored pencil for that. You're going to have a lot of choices regarding art supplies for this project because you could use oil pastels or crayons, you could use colored pencils, or you could even use markers. And if you would like to watercolor the background, remember you want your watercolor set, your paintbrush, a cup filled with water, and a paper towel. And if you'd like to use a ruler to help you draw the 4 lines to create the 4 boxes, include a ruler on your art supply list. Those are the supplies you will need for today's art project. Now would be a great time for you to pause the video, set up your workspace. Remember, you want to put down an art mat or newspaper before you start your project. After you do that, gather your supplies and meet me back here because we're going to create some fun creature art. Did you get your materials and your workspace set up? Great, then let's get started. So as you noticed, I have created 4 characters and I made 4 different boxes. The reason I did that is because after I create my characters, I want to write a story. And the 4 boxes really will help you do this because you're going to have the start of the story, so what happens in the beginning, and then you've got the middle part of the story, and then you have the ending of the story. So a lot of artists and animators will use this idea to create characters and to create their unique stories about the characters. And I want to remind you, as an artist, you always have choices. So if you wanted to create just one big character and then after create a story about that character, you can do that as well. Now let's get started. My first step is to create the 4 boxes, and I'm going to use a ruler to help me. My goal is to create 4 equal boxes. So I'm going to draw a line in the middle, going this way, and then I'm going to draw a line going across. Another way to do this is just to fold your paper. Match it up, and then use the heel of your hand. So it's easier to fold to get your equal parts that way. You can do it that way as well. And then you can draw your lines. The next step is to start drawing my characters in. And I'm going to give you some ideas using the elements of art, line, and shape. But you don't have to use these same exact ideas. I encourage you to get really creative and use your own imagination using shape and line. So see how I'm thinking oval the whole time. So while I do this, I just think of line and shape. When I overlap, meaning when I draw over things, I always want to make sure I erase out my lines. Remember to keep thinking about line and shape. And remember, if you draw things and you're not happy with it, you can always erase and change things. Then once you're finished with your characters and you have them the way you like them, then your next step would be to trace your shapes with a black Sharpie marker or a black colored pencil if you want your shapes to stand out a little bit more. Now would be a great time for you to pause the video, create your 4 boxes, draw your characters, and then, if you'd like, trace them with your marker or your black colored pencil, and then meet me back here because we're going to have some fun with color. Did you finish drawing and tracing your creatures? Great. Then let's have fun adding some color. The art supply choice is up to you. You could use crayons, oil pastels, colored pencils, or a mix. Just remember, if you combine oil pastels and markers, you'll ruin those markers. So the first thing I'm always thinking about is color and patterns. So I think about repeating my colors and then also thinking about those light colors next to dark colors. I'm going to put some colors together. So that's how you're going to figure that out. So for example, for this one, maybe what I'd like to do is add some blue into here and then some orange into the body. Whatever color choice you decide is up to you. Just remember, you want to think about lighter colors next to darker colors. If you put dark colors next to dark colors, your shapes won't stand out. So if you're not sure, always just put your colors together and then you'll see if one color is lighter than the other. I'm going to finish coloring in my creatures and watercoloring the background. Now it's your turn to add color to your creatures and decide how you want to create the background of your artwork. Well, that wraps up our art lesson. I hope you enjoyed using your imagination and creating some unique creatures. And I really encourage you, after you're done creating your creatures and coloring them in, to start writing a story about those creatures. You're never too young to be an author and an illustrator. And I always want you to remember, when you are creating art, to relax, have lots of fun, and keep creating.